The U.S. labor movement faces a crisis impacting the lives of millions of people. We are up against powerful interests, attacking our rights to a voice on the job, fair wages and working conditions, and public services. Up against an agenda that is putting profits over people. Yet in the face of these challenges, unions remain the largest organized force of working-class people in the U.S. In Philadelphia, there are 150,000 union members and countless organizations who share a people-first vision of our city. So where do we go next to build working-class power in Philadelphia? As young women in the labor movement, we believe that to confront this crisis, we must draw lessons from the personal stories and political struggles of union women fighting on the front lines every day. We share these stories to teach our history. We share these stories to inspire a new generation of women leaders.
Construction is one of the riskiest businesses out there because the level of injury and death is very high. So everybody that goes out there and every day and works hard is putting their lives at risk. One of the biggest challenges as a woman is the perception still that this is male employment, that this is not a place for women. I grew up in Guaynabo, Puerto Rico, which is in the metropolitan area near San Juan. I came to pursue my college studies in Haverford College in Pennsylvania, who does a good job of trying to get Puerto Rican students. I got involved with the Carpenters Union in 1989 is when I started. I took the apprenticeship test and got a sponsorship through the Urban Affairs Coalition, who had a program at Temple University to help women and minorities gain entrance into the building trades. My first day ever, my first project was a trash esteem plant under the Walt Whitman Bridge. This was summer of 1989, I think it was like June 23rd, and it was a concrete job. And I just remember getting off the bus on Oregon Avenue and walking under the Walt Whitman Bridge with my toolbox that we get at the apprenticeship school when we sign up. And I think I just went like this when I walked into the construction site. It was like a change of paradigm for me because it was so different from anything I had ever done or seen in my life. A woman doing the non-traditional work of construction. And if it were not for federal regulations, affirmative action, I don't think I would have gotten the hours of work that I have, because people don't feel that that's a place where women should be at, even though we go through the same training and apprenticeship and have the same skills. And it's funny because the perception is the opposite of what it really is. I get people in my trade, men, say, "Oh my God, you must have it made because you can work always because you're a woman," as if these regulations are actually enforced. And I say, well, where do you see women working at? I don't see any women working, and this is what I get. If I actually go on a site where there's some enforcement, if there is one woman working out of a workforce of 100, I am told, I already have a girl, so, which is discriminatory to say to somebody. That's like saying, translates into saying that because of my gender I cannot work when I'm a carpenter.
Pick up signs and go out in the street, make some noise, and let everybody know what's going on. And hopefully the mayor will come around and start putting some pressure on these contractors.
I was part of a group called the Fair Hiring Coalition from Temple students, activists, CLUW, a few tradespeople that were residents of Philadelphia. We started picketing at Temple University's Gateway construction project.
Shame, shame on Temple, shame.
And we were fighting for union jobs for all, meaning inclusion of North Philadelphians and people that historically have been excluded from union construction sites in Philadelphia, which is people of color and females.
It's an outrage. Nobody's enforcing it. The government's turning a blind eye. The university blames the contractors, blames the union, blames the university. It's got to stop.
And we picketed last spring every Monday, every week for like 16 whole weeks, from 12 to 16 whole weeks. We're still involved in efforts to try to hold the temple administration accountable, because right now they're doing an enormous amount of construction involving millions of dollars, like $400 million in the middle of North Philadelphia, which is one of the most distressed districts in the country with the highest levels of unemployment. There are some neighborhoods that have like 75% unemployment, yet the construction sites don't have North Philadelphians or Philadelphians. And this is not something that I saw inside my union for 23 years, because our model of union is a company business unionism, where we're just there to produce for the contractors, and we don't really gain that type of radical outlook that I was able to see when I was picketing last spring with some people at Temple University. I'm just learning now every day as I work with people. I'm still learning. So you could have the theory and the conscience of something, and it doesn't mean anything till you're actually doing it and fighting for it, and that's how you build your politicization and your knowledge of the power that you have.
Growing up down south was you work. When you like 5, 6 years old, you work in tobacco. We would go out and help other people work. They would come and help us, and then we would go and help them. So we grew up on a farm. I moved to Philadelphia. I have 2 daughters and a son, and I have 3 grandchildren. My first job when I came here, I worked in a wig factory. It was like on 19th and Allegheny. And then I worked at the Union League, that non-union. I worked there for a while. And then I worked at Beverly Stratford for 8 years. In the Union League, they treated you the way they wanted to treat you. If they wanted to send you home early, they do that. It wasn't no seniority. So say if they laid some people off, they didn't lay off by seniority. Beverly Stratford, it didn't work that way because it was union. So they had to lay off by seniority. I was in the union, but I didn't go to meetings. I wasn't involved in the union at that time. And what happened was they closed down. And so I left there and I was at the Radisson, the laundry department. When I came there, it was a lady named Ann. She was the shop steward for many years, and she retired. And they asked me would I be the shop steward, and so they voted me in, and that's how I became the shop steward at the Radisson. I was working there for 26 years, and maybe 18 months ago, they really was like after me. They really wanted me out of the hotel because they say I was starting a lot of trouble, but I was bringing people like really close together.
That's because it's not possible for people to do 10 and 5, 10, 15 room extra in 8 hours.
What we done was we go downstairs and we call a meeting.
Is there any respect here? No, there's disrespect here. You guys, look, you guys do a job of 3 to 4 people. You guys are the
And when you tell people, look, they're trying to take your benefits, your health care, people upset. So what we done, we got together, we signed out for break so they wouldn't be able to say anything. And then we march upstairs to HR. We ring the doorbell, we go through, and they was really upset.
We're not done yet. We just want you to know that we're still here to fight for a fair contract. We're unified, we're strong.
And then we start singing and clapping, and this is a union territory, so yes. And they was really upset. It was a lot from different departments. And in fact, we also had a few people from other hotels. In the end, we came back and we got everything we wanted. We got the raise, and not only did we get the raise, we get a bonus in January and July, and our pension, everything. When the bosses see that the union people in the hotel is together, they'll be very careful how they treat one. If you don't have power, you really don't have anything as a woman. And when you're at the hotel, management, they have to see that we have power. Because if we like slack off and don't have anything, they do as they don't even have to go by the contract. They can do what they want to do. But once they see that power there and that we're not playing around, we will come after them, because we don't have a problem with getting together and going upstairs. And with me being in the union so long, I just feel it's just a part of me. And growing up in the South, back during that time, you didn't have a lot. And so maybe some people that had a garden, you bring other people over that they can get stuff out of your corn and help people. So I was here for a long time, but like 40 years, 38 years, but yes, still the same.
The world is political. There's a fight. We struggle every day. It's just something about me, I think, when I feel like somebody's being wrong or doing something wrong, it just makes me want to go forward or fight for that cause. My grandparents raised me. At the time, I didn't understand why I wasn't with my mother. I was too young to understand, but as years passed, she explained to me that being up here by herself and struggling, she felt like she needed to send me back to Georgia to be in a safe environment. I appreciate it. I was grounded, but for a lot of years, I carried, I believe, a little animosity. In my late teens and early 20s, I had various jobs. And in 1986, that's when I got a call, and I reported for orientation and started my career in the Postal Service. You would have mail come up on a belt, you would take that mail and you would key the zip code and it would fall into the tub that it needed to go to. So that was my first position. And the union came to me and asked me if I was interested in being a union steward. And I'm like, no, not really. I don't know anything about the contract. He said, but you would be good because you stand up and speak for yourself. And when I realized what union stood for and that there was a contract that was joint between labor and management, but yet management think it's just a union book and they didn't want to, go by the contract. I just felt like now we have guidelines, we have rules, guidelines that we're to follow, but yet and still we can't get these people to follow them. So yeah, I think I do want to be a part of this. 6 months after I started at the post office, I became a union steward. At some point in time, my self-esteem was low. It was low through all my struggles. But I always felt something gnawing on the inside of me that wanted to come out. And it just seems like taking this position and being able to stand for something. fight for a cause. You know, I think that's what it is. I became the first woman president. For 40 years, it has been a man in this position. We have 60 stations that we're responsible for. They say less mail is being delivered. New machines are coming in that's eliminating people, and that's the scary part for our workers. When those new machines come in, they think that it's going to limit them or get rid of them. The administrative part of it, to me, is making sure that we have a job.
They're talking about laying off 22,000 people if they cancel 6-day delivery. We can't have that happen. That's 22,000 good paying, family-sustaining jobs. We got to keep that.
Making sure that they don't privatize.
That people are out there trying to privatize every one of our jobs out there into the private sector for those in public sector unions.
And I am sick of the cynicism of some of the people who are in charge of this country, from Wall Street to Harrisburg to some of the folks in Washington, who can keep their noses buried in a spreadsheet and don't realize the value they're destroying by destroying jobs, destroying unions, destroying working people's livelihoods in this country. Are you willing to fight to stand up for what's really valuable?
So I just think from what I did go through, I look at it now and look back, and I'm thankful because it really made me the person I am today. And because of that, it made me want to be a part of the labor movement and fight for the rights of others.
You have a very strong responsibility to take care of people at their most vulnerable. Constant evaluation and constant detective work, like looking for small symptoms, looking for trends. You have to know everything you're doing for each and every patient at all times. I grew up in Allentown. I was the second child of 5. Since my father was in management, there was no talk of unions in my household. But in spite of themselves, I became a union activist. I moved to Philadelphia with a friend after I graduated and met some other women who were nurses. I really liked them. I liked what they did and who they were, and I decided to go to nursing school. Talking with them, I began to see that if you wanted to affect change and you wanted to have some power in your work life, you needed to be part of an organization that did that, and that's what unions do for groups of workers. It's a legal opportunity to fight to improve your working conditions. And of course, for nurses, what is our working conditions but taking care of patients? So everything we do, everything we try to improve is with, you know, the idea that patients are going to get better care also. But I began to get involved in the union. I was the grievance chair first. I was a grievance rep, and then I became a grievance chair, and sort of worked my way up, and eventually was elected president at Temple, and that was probably somewhere around 1990. They had a hospital, Northeastern Hospital in Port Richmond, which was a community hospital that had been around for about 110 years, I believe. And they purchased that hospital and made lots of promises to the community. And then one day they announced they were closing it because it wasn't making enough money. And we organized a campaign with the community. And we said, this is an important institution. It was a big employer of the area. They refused to come to talk with anybody. They just decided they were closing it, and we fought them in the community on that. And that was part of why they wanted to silence us.
What do we want? Say staffing! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Say staffing!
The Temple strike was a very interesting strike. They forced us to go out on strike because they basically worked in there all kinds of things, like they weren't going to collect union dues. They basically had a plan whereby the union would not be able to function.
We are bargaining for safe staffing. We are bargaining to keep the qualified professional staff that has worked here for many years, and that is important for our patients.
They really wanted to gut the contract in terms of all kinds of things, in terms of working conditions as well as financial and benefit issues.
I am ready.
But the worst of it was what we called the gag clause. For example, we couldn't go to Harrisburg and work on legislation and say, you know, here's why we need safe nurse-to-patient ratios. You couldn't talk about your workplace because you couldn't in any way hint that there might be something wrong at your institution.
But now I'm out here asking for your support to stand for all of us. We need to stand together. We need to keep standing together.
It wasn't just the nurses by themselves. It was together with all the labs and the X-ray and the respiratory therapists and everybody. They didn't like our combined power. That was pretty clear, and they wanted to get rid of it.
Temple has said that they're going to bus in temporary workers. They're willing to pay them up to $10,000 a week.
They hired about close to 800 people, none of whom knew the policies, procedures, patients. They were from all across the country, and they just plunked them into the hospital, and they took over from us.
We agreed on, healthcare, wages, tuition.
Ultimately, we were able to have a very victorious strike, if you want to call a strike victorious. It was a very painful time for a lot of the members to not have a paycheck. And we looked at what the costs were for these scabs, and it was, and we turned out to be absolutely correct because they admitted it, an extra $1 million a day just on these scabs. $1 million a day, extra. And I still think somebody should go to jail for wasting that kind of patient money. You can think of how you could fix the nurse-to-patient ratios, how you could buy more EKG machines, and you could do a whole lot more for the patients with that money that they tossed away.
My mom used to always tell us that just because we grew up and lived in poverty, it doesn't mean that we can't have something better in life. She always said to us, school is the most important thing in the world. When I got to 4th grade at the Thomas Mifflin Elementary School, I had a teacher by the name of Tina Trawick, and that was the first time that I had an African-American teacher, and she made such an impression on me that I wanted to be just like her. In the beginning of my career, I started off with this philosophy and with the belief that I would change the world, particularly for African-American children, just as I felt Ms. Trawick changed for me, that I wanted to give back and do the same thing. So Ivy Leaf was one of the most prestigious private schools, African-American private schools in the country. And I thought, wow, this is an opportunity. I'm going to give up my union membership, but maybe this is an opportunity for me to give to these kids and to help them to move forward and succeed, which I learned very quickly when I became an employee there that was not the case. The owners, directors of the private school, they did not have that same philosophy. How can you deny a child an education because the parents didn't have the ability, or for some reason or other, 1 month something may have happened, to pay? But that was a rule that they had. We were given 1 ream of paper a month, 2 pieces of chalk, and 1 board eraser that had to last us for at least 2 months. I had no sick days, none whatsoever. And I'll never forget, back then I was making $285 every 2 weeks. Barely had enough to pay my rent and to be able to live on my own. But if I were sick, I was not getting paid for that day. I just didn't get paid. So many times I went to work sick. And I mean with tonsillitis, strep throat, things like that. I had no choice in the matter. I couldn't go see a doctor because I didn't have medical insurance. When I came back into the school district as an appointed teacher, it was like I basically wanted to fall down on the floor and kiss the ground and kiss the blackboard, because I actually had boxes of chalk. I actually had as much paper as I needed back then. I actually had kids who came to school irregardless of them paying or not paying tuition kind of thing. It was such a blessing to be able to take the day off if I were sick, and to go to the doctor, go to the dentist to get my teeth fixed. You know, things like that that I did not have at the private school. It was quite an experience, and one that I'll never forget. Corporate folk believe that the unions, teachers' unions, and our contracts are the detriment to public education, which is not true at all. Our working conditions, the conditions under which our employees work, are the conditions under which children learn. Why should we not want our children to have textbooks, materials, supplies, the ability to be taught by a certified specialist in music, art, physical education? Why should we not want to fight for prep time of 45 minutes at least a day for our employees so that they can plan, meet, and prepare lessons? Make it so that our children get what it is that they need. PCAPS was developed, and it kind of grew really, really quickly and very large. It came out of an outcry to the Boston Consulting Group's plan to privatize. They call it transforming, we call it privatizing our school district. Recently, we have been fighting against the school district's initial plan to close 37 schools. They've not sat down at the table with those people who have a stake and a vested interest in children. Were we successful in getting our one-year moratorium that we were calling for? No, we were not successful. But is the fight over? No, it's not over.
Save our schools! Save our schools! Save our schools! Save our schools!
Do our schools need transforming? Does there need to be a change? Yes, there does. But does there need to be a corporate model forced on us? No. That's the piece that we are against. We don't want someone trying to tell us what we need when you haven't asked us.
I think that's why the right wing is out against unions right now. They know what we're capable of.
They want to do any and everything they possibly can to put the negative spin on unions, and they want to break the unions, because if they break them and do away with them, then they can do whatever they want to do to us as workers.
And all of this is about profit making, and it goes, and it's not just divided into one industry or the other industry. It's part of a big system where we're all connected.
You have to do an analysis of who's trying to keep you from getting what you think you need. Where do you get your strength? You can't much get it by yourself. You have to get it with your coworkers.
Nobody can do anything individually. There's no power in individual. I mean, it's got to be a collective struggle. And by going out there and doing things with other people struggling for social justice, you learn your power.
And I'll give advice to the people, the younger people that coming up, that always remember that you the union.
And collectively together, we can do tremendous things. Imagine the world we could live in. Just imagine what we could do. We could really, really not move mountains, but we could move mountain ranges. We really could. As a union, we could do amazing things for people, for the poor regular folk.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'm wrong.
Day by day, We make this town run. We make this town run. Don't we got a right? Don't we got a right to a better life? To a better life. Don't we got a right? Don't we got a right to a better life? To a better life. Don't we got a right? Don't we got a right to a better life? To a better life. Everything we got, everything we got, we fall for it, we fall for it. Everything we want, everything we want, we fall for it, we fall for it. Gonna keep on fighting, gonna keep on fighting. That's how we win, that's how we win. Gonna keep on fighting, gonna keep on fighting. Unity we bring, unity we bring.